Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. First of all, we would like to say thank you very much for Madam Suraya who has given us chance to present our material about thought of al-Ghazali on the economic growth theory. We are from group 6, so let me introduce my friends for group 6. There are 5 girls in group 6. Okay, the first one is Nurul Shafinas binti Sayyidiyah Hamzah 270106. And then there is Nurul Fatihah binti Ibrahim 278790. Nurul Amni binti Husnan 280350. And then Ni'azah Sofia binti Ni'zazila 277255. And the last, there is me, Sabiatul Mu'awana 702172. And let's start with the part 1, that is introduction. So without any further ado, let's get started. Let's start the first part of our materials, that is introduction. If we talk about economic growth theory from al-Ghazali, first of all, we know that Abu Hamid Muhammad bin Muhammad al-Tuzi al-Ghazali, or we know as al-Ghazali, is a classical Islamic scholar. We may think that our Islamic classical scholars that think about morals, fiqh, tawhid, Sufism and philosophy and so on. But in the fact, we as Islamic scholar has very various disciplines scientific, and one of them is al-Ghazali in economic theory. Economic growth theory by al-Ghazali has a special characteristic. There is comprehensive thinking, linking an economic aspect and non-economic aspect, such as politics, social issue, and current condition of society that can impact in the economic system. So we know that our theory of economics is a little bit different with the conventional such as from Adam Smith or Karl Marx. That is, we have a value conducted by Al-Quran and Sunnah. And then the growth theory from Al-Ghazali is a very compact and has a good system. We may know that al-Ghazali, as long as during his life, he produced 300 journals about philosophy, morals, fiqh, interpretation, Sufism, politics, and economics. And we can find the theory more about economics in his book named Ihya Ulum al-Din. And the key of our part is the relevant theory of al-Ghazali in the current condition now. There is many disciplines that conducted by al-Ghazali in economic theory. There are very vital things. It's such basic concept of individual behavior as economic agent, the concept of property, the concept of social welfare, supply and demand, price and profit, market values and ethics, production activity and their hierarchy, system barter and the function of money and in economy. And we will discuss more about al-Ghazali and the practice and the current issue that relevant from the theory of al-Ghazali. Let's going from the next part and will be delivered by Fatihah. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today I want to talk about Imam al-Ghazali's biography. The name of Imam al-Ghazali, Abu Hamid Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Ghazali. He known as Imam al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali was born at the town of Tabaran in the district of Tis, which is now situated in modern-day Iran. Al-Ghazali was a Muslim theologian, jurist, philosopher, and a mystic descendant from the Persians. The eventful life of Abu Hamid Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Ghazali can be divided into 3 major periods. The first is period of learning, first in his hometown of Tis in Persia, then in Gurgan, and finally in Nishapur. After the death of his teacher, Imam al-Haramain al-Juwayni, al-Ghazali moved to the court of Nizam al-Mulk, the powerful vizier of the Seljuk Sultans, who eventually appointed him head of the Nizamiyah College in Baghdad. The second period of al-Ghazali's life was his brilliant career as the highest-ranking Orthodox doctor of the Islamic community in Baghdad. This period was short but significant. During this time, as well as lecturing on Islamic jurisprudence at the college, he was also busy refuting heresies and responding to questions from all segments of the community. The political confusion following the assassination of Nizam al-Mulk and subsequent violent death of Sultan Malik Shah, al-Ghazali himself fell into a serious spiritual crisis and finally left Baghdad, renouncing his career and the world. In the period of his life, he wandered as a Sufi in Syria and Palestine before returning to Tuz, where he was engaged in writing Sufi practices and teaching his disciplines until his death. The inner development leading to his conversion is explained in his autobiography, Al-Munkid min al-Dalal, written in his life. It was his habit from an early age, he says, to search for the true reality of things. In the process, he came to doubt the sense and even reason itself as the means to certain knowledge, and fell into the deep skepticism. However, he was eventually delivered from this with the aid of the divine light, and thus recovered his trust in reason. Next, the schematic presentation of Al-Munkid has allows various interpretation, but it is irrelevant to question the main line of the story. Thus, certain knowledge is explained in Al-Munkid as something logical necessary. It's also religious conviction, Al-Yakin, as mentioned in Al-Ihya al-Ulumuddin. This when he says that the traditional teachings did not grip him in a literal sense, he means to say that he lost his conviction of the truth, which he only later regained through his Sufi mystical experience. He worked to regionalize his experience to cure the disease of his time. So it's all about Al-Ghazali life that has been just far examined mostly as the development of his individual personality. However, there have appeared some new attempts to understand his life in its wider political and historical context.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Shafinas. I will presenting the idea of al-Ghazali on economy theory. Al-Ghazali thought in socio-economy is rooted in of concept that he calls Islamic social welfare function. Of this concept was born the terms of masalih and mafasid, which is the benefit and damage, in opposition to strengthen social welfare. Al-Ghazali economic views is he was an expert in the field of economy, especially of the ethic of Islamic finance. The thought of Al-Ghazali is the first one is economy is voluntary exchange and market evolution. This is because the image of the supply and demand to determine price and profit. And it is also also to expand the market to meet the goods of their respective economic needs. According to Al-Ghazali, by human nature, human beings always need other human beings. That's its mean which complete each other goods. Okay, the next one is production activities. This is we call for social interest. Islam teach people to prioritize economy, which is production activities is very important to maintain the values on and which were taught by religion. Why Al-Ghazali thinking production activities? It is because to meet the needs of society. The third one is about barter and money evolution. At the time in that century, they not have money, and if one exchange the needs of is different, called it a system barter. So with the creation of dirham and dinar, there that as a medium of exchange, which is we call that money. Money can solve problem that arise from the exchange of goods, which is we call it system barter. Therefore, according to Al-Ghazali, money just as the standard price of the goods or things. The money has no intrinsic value. Why Al-Ghazali said that? Because money can become issues, which is the first one is the prohibition of holding money. Second, the problem of usury, and the last one is buying and selling currency. Next, with the concept of al-Ghazali, which is Islamic social welfare function, he also think that the role of the state in public finance. Although al-Ghazali avoid from politics, he focused about the role the state meeting the needs of individual and society. What we can see, al-Ghazali very concerned about social welfare for society.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. I will present about the current situation of economic growth theory. As you can see, al-Ghazali economic views for the well-being in society is based on 5 basic goals, which is religion, life, descent, property, and intellect. While other Western economies, especially in developed countries such as US and Britain, is focused on their goals, which is to increase wealth, income, standard of living, and improve healthcare facilities. So we can see that in the other Western economist theory is more focused in property and life only rather than al-Ghazali theory. For the concept of economy in al-Ghazali economic growth theory, also different than other Western economist theory, which is its aim is maslahah, which is a concept that encompasses all human activities and establish individual and community relationships. Meanwhile, other Western concept is emphasis on division of labor as the source of society's capacities to increase its productivity. Even though for their goals and concept is different, but in their production activities they emphasize the need for cooperation and coordination for work. For example, the German biotech company partnership with US pharmaceutical company Pfizer to test and manufacture the vaccine. We can see that both of countries cooperate with each other to produce vaccine in an effort to overcome the COVID-19 virus over the world. In Malaysia also emphasized the need for cooperation in their production activities, such as to increase their economic growth. The government and companies cooperate to produce goods and services with their resources. So the talk of al-Ghazali about economic growth theory is still in use nowadays, not by US only, but other countries also use it, such as in our country itself, in Malaysia, which is the companies and the government with cooperate with each other to increase their productivity. And the price market is also determined by supply and demand, which is also stated in al-Ghazali economic growth theory. Not only that, voluntary exchange also used in our country Malaysia, which is also one of the concepts in al-Ghazali economic growth theory. For example, fishermen will sell their fish to the fishmonger, which is they exchange time and expertise with the benefiting by earning money without force involved in the transaction between both parties. So we can say that the talk of Ghazali about economic growth theory is still in use nowadays.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nik Azza Sophia binti Netsazela. Now I would like to continue part conclusion. So, based on our research, we can conclude that Imam al-Ghazali was one of the great thinkers in the field of Islamic economic. We learn also his thought on economics are available in his works such as Ihya Ulumuddin, Al-Mustafa Mizan al-A'mal, and At-Tib al-Masbu' fi an-Nasya al-Muluk. Next, we can see and learn that the scripture using by Imam al-Ghazali is concept of encompasses all human activities and establish close relationships between individuals and society. The object of study al-Ghazali's economy encompasses as well as the role of government and public finance. It is include the market exchange rate, production, barter, and the rest. Next, we can say that it's not impossible with the sophistications of knowledge available because he was able to write more books as a result of combination of Islamic studies, which is not necessary only in this field of economics, but also in the field of social, politics, international relations, graphic, science, and other fields. Last but not least, the scripture used by Imam al-Ghazali from Imam al-Ghazali is all based on Al-Quran and Hadith, and his scripture are still used until this generation. I think that's all from us. Thank you.